Claire, how are you? You
Hi,
there?
Sam. I'm
How are you?
yeah, I'm fine. How are you? We're live.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm following everything and I'm sick to my stomach. I'm really nauseous. I'm traumatized. The country's traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
And the nerve of some of these so-called American Jews like Doovid to
Mm-hmm.
argue in favor of Hamas, and that you have people like Norman Finkelstein on the same level as Doovid, and you have people as like Bernie Sanders on the same level as Doovid, and Hollywood Jewish, quasi-Jewish celebrities, leftist, atheists, fakes, frauds, traitors.
Did you hear me say that there's a difference between diaspora Jews and Israeli Jews
Yeah,
when I
absolutely,
was
and
talking?
it's
Okay.
it's uh, it's disgusting. There, I don't know what this Duvid is going off on this Elliot guy that's mixed, but Duvid himself is mixed. As far as I know, his father's not Jewish, and or his mother's not Jewish. He's of a mixed
His mother's
marriage.
Jewish, but his father isn't. Yeah.
Right, right. So he's a liberal, whatever he is,
Mm.
confused quisling.
Yes.
And he's talking about a rules-based order. And what I'm getting right now is that Israel has forensic evidence that it was not uh, a bombing that had been initiated by the Israeli Air Force or Israeli defenses. And there's a precedent for our saying this because yesterday, as the Palestinians from northern Gaza were evacuating the north, using three routes from within the Gaza Strip, they were attacked by the Hamas. It wasn't that they were just not allowed to pass through those corridors, those roads that were open. The Hamas tried to block them, and
Mm-hmm.
then in three locations, the Hamas actually fired RPGs at them. And then they had the gall to blame us for doing that. Okay, so precedent has already been set yesterday. I can read you the reports, the forensics that were done by our military, and the reporting that was provided to the global press. A the IDF is saying, the Israeli Defense Forces and the Air Force, we can. This is their the IDF spokesperson. We can say clearly we did not try to strike anybody, any civilians in that area when it had occurred, the evacuation. And the Hamas lunatics are the ones that are desperate enough to try to take these desperate measures to shoot and kill the people that are under their governance, and then blame Israel for it. It is the worst and most obvious form of a false flag. And this is what was actually said. It's not that it was a denial. It's just we have the aerial reconnaissance, surveillance footage to clearly show in live time that it was not the Israeli forces that had shot missiles at the convoy. It was the Hamas itself, and this is the continuation of the statement that came from our Israeli Defense Force, a media correspondent, media spokesperson. I don't think it's beneath. It's a quote here. I don't think it's beneath Hamas to even I don't think it is beneath Hamas even to kill Palestinian civilians if they think it will help them in the international arena or to create support or to try to blame Israel. He says calling members of the group subhumans, and that's what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Hamas's media office claimed cars carrying fleeing civilians were struck in three places. In three places, they're claiming that Israel deliberately targeted evacuees that we warned by providing them with flyers and asking them to evacuate in an organized manner. That we struck them in three places simultaneously as they headed south from Gaza City. Israel has accused Hamas of attempting to keep Gazans from moving south in order to keep them as human shields or PR fodder, which is public relations fodder. And that's exactly what just happened tonight. Okay? The footage that Doooovid, do nothing, do quasi-Jew, do Quisling Jew, do traitor Jew, Doooovid, do in your pants, you lying sack of shit, apologist for terrorists, murderers, rapists, subhuman savages, barbaric animals, minimizing what they did. What they slaughtered a pregnant woman in the style of the Cossacks during the Khmelnytsky uprisings. Such horrific mutilation and atrocities while she was still living. They fucking filmed themselves with their GoPro cameras on their heads. The footage has been confiscated. We have it all. They tore a living baby out of her belly while she was still alive so she can see and witness them burning her fetus out that they just tore out of her. They burned the fetus in front of her eyes, and then they slit her throat and beheaded her. And they gleefully and joyfully recorded it all and documented it all. Doooovid. Okay, and that's only one atrocity. All the girls that they gang raped and burned alive as well. All the horrific things. Yeah, the children, the babies, they beheaded and videotaped it. Infants. The fact that they're holding children hostage right now and raping them and raping the women and they're playing games with the emotions of the Jews of the world. They want the outrage, and you're making apologies for them, Mr. Jewbag. You're not a Jew. You're a miserable piece of a shit American libtard. That's what you are. Don't speak as a Jew. You are nothing. You are no Jew. You are a miserable piece of crap making apologies for subhuman, barbaric animals, sub-animals, beneath animals. And I'll tell you that this is a fulfillment of what's written of in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38, chapter 39, because this is Gog. You know who organized this. You know who's behind all of this. You know who created ISIS, who trained ISIS, and who trained these animals and participated in the slaughter. These were ISIS operatives that trained Hamas and Jihad. They gave them drugs, just like they gave drugs to the Azov battalions, the living descendants of the Nazis, when they were fighting the Russians in Mariupol. And there's a precedent for using desperate measures that the Ukrainians themselves used with no shame. They bombed civilians taking refuge in the Mariupol school, and then they blamed the Russians for it, and they got caught red-handed doing it. All right? They're borrowing from tactics from the Ukraine war. They used drones, just like the Ukrainians used drones to drop grenades straight from the Ukraine war. They're using all sorts of tactics, but also ISIS tactics that they were trained by your favorite president, your favorite libtard president, Doooovid, you disgusting dog. Mr. Obama, your satanic LGBTQ plus B lunatic, all right, that actually created ISIS with the Turks and trained them in order to run a roughshod on Syria and on Libya. Okay, so this is a fulfillment of the opening salvo of the war against Israel on the part of the nations, but on the part of Gog. Okay, Mr. Obama is encoded in the prophets as the chief prince of Meshech and Tuval, the Nasi Gog, the chief representative of Gog. Gog is they are the globalist cabal. This is the globalist cabal doing all of this behind the scenes, orchestrating all of this. Okay, and the nations that have participated in this, they're all mentioned in the list of what you find in Ezekiel's prophecy there. All right, so this is the opening salvo. They devised an evil plan and they implemented it. All right, it's not what happened last week, Saturday, was the opening of the Gog and Magog war against Israel in chapter 38, Ezekiel. Okay, so what's happening now? It's very, very disturbing. Okay, because this ends up with everything that you can see happening around you now: a global financial collapse, monetary decimation, the banks shutting down, and then you see all this global, worldwide is stoking of hatred for the Jews. And this is also what I warned of for years, and it's happening now. It's manifesting, and it's God's hand that allowed this. All right. For all of what happened last week, there's we can go on and on about what had happened, that there was division in Israel, and the enemies of Israel took advantage of it while Israel was not paying attention, and we were lax, too busy focusing on our own divisions. And it's also prophetic and biblical that this should happen. And our religious leaders are saying, this was predictable, that it would reach this level of tragedy, and also that there was idolatry going on, at the time, at the party, at the rave, while they were dancing under a statue of a Buddha, and they were taking drugs and fornicating, and this was one of the holiest days of the Hebrew calendar. That's also just asking for trouble. I'm not saying that that what had happened, it's God's justice, but it's just horrible and horrific. They ended up raping so many women and filming it, and then burning them after they had gang raped them. They burned them alive. And they videotaped it, and they were proud of what they did, and they were high on their own drugs doing that, the savage animals. All right? And how many did they kill? Close to 1,400 Jews now. Whole families they slaughtered. All right? And now they're killing their own people and trying to blame Israel in a very, ham-fisted false flag that happened yesterday, that they got it caught red-handed doing. Palestinian refugees that were fleeing, they were saying it was Hamas that shot at us. It wasn't even IEDs. They fired powerful rockets at them. It blew them up. When they're all in the back of a truck, tightly packed with in one location, it doesn't take much to kill all those people. An RPG, 70 people at one shot. I don't know what the Doooovid douchebag is saying about a rocket, a Hamas rocket that's powerful enough to hit a concentration of people in a hospital that are there, packed like sardines in the hospital. They didn't have to blow up the whole entire hospital. One powerful enough rocket can kill all those people. Doesn't have to be an Israeli bomb from a jet. It could be a simple Katyusha missile or a Grad, which these Hamasniks have. And we saw the footage. That missile was moving slow. It's not an Israeli missile. That was not like a supersonic or any kind of like powerful, target. What is it called? A guided missile. It's not. It wasn't. It was very ham-fisted what they just did tonight, and they hit a school and a hospital prior to Biden visiting us tomorrow to create more outrage. All right, it's not beneath them. They're very capable of doing this, and they're killing their own people in order to try to win the propaganda war and the information war and the war of images. They are disgusting subhumans, and what they did is unforgivable. And now this
here.
Yeah, what?
And Vincent's here. I
Okay,
was just wondering what he
fine.
thought
All
of what Doooovid was saying.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, I was listening to Doooovid. No, it was just, well, I mean, he was just basically saying that, Israelis inside of Israel, deep inside Israel, are safe. And he said, if, you want to have a rave, you don't do it 2 miles from the Gaza border, which I don't know if he was like, he was just basically saying that it's safer in Detroit. No, it's more safe in Israel than it is in Detroit. But I don't think that we should really get involved in this, because as I was telling Stephen J. James, when the Jews moved in there, they created a war zone. If you didn't want this to happen, you didn't have to go back to Palestine. There's no reason for that. I mean, why? Because the Bible said so. So what? You brought this upon yourselves, and I'm not taking sides in the war, but I'm not taking sides in the war. I don't really care, that.
No, right now we are being used as a pawn of the global international cabal. okay? Because the real target is Iran, and it's a distraction, and it's a move on the part of the satanic elites of the West. Because they were in a desperate spot where their backs were against the wall. The economy's still about to go haywire. The whole entire facade of the dollar as the world reserve currency is going haywire. They can't stop it. They needed to open another front, another war, in order to distract from their failure in Ukraine. The Ukraine war was also meant to be a means of, prolonging their grip on power through the global reserve currency, which they're losing now. And so they opened another front in Israel, which is far more emotional, far more divisive, far more powerful as a distraction from what's really going on behind the scenes. All right, they need a smokescreen for the collapse of the West, for the collapse of the global reserve currency, for their transition, for their great reset. So when they go after Iran, and they will, Iran will shut down the Straits of Hormuz, and then oil prices will shoot through the roof, $300, $400 a barrel, and then they'll have their excuse for saying why inflation ran amok and why the markets crashed and why the markets. But everybody that has a half a brain will know that it was a deception. It's a major false flag with what they're attempting now. What the Hamas people did yesterday with the Hamas animals, the terrorists that killing Palestinians and then trying to blame the Jews for it, was a very ham-fisted, very easily discoverable false flag. All right, and Mr. Doooovid is covering his ass and doing apologetics for the Arabs in order that they not target him in Detroit. All right, in order that they not come after him. He's in the language of the Holocaust, he's what was called a Claire, the capo. He's a capo. He's a living Nazi collaborator capo. All right, trying to save his own hide by going after the Jews and covering for the Nazis, the Hamas, ISIS Nazis. I know you don't want to have anything to do with this, okay? The poor bastards living along the Gaza Strip, they were all kibbutznik leftist peaceniks. All right, they were unarmed, and they were, and that rave was all about wanting peace and living in this hippy dippy delusion of we could all make peace. We're all human and we're all brothers and all this, and then they end up getting massacred, raped, and burned alive while they were dancing under an idol, Mr. Buddha. And that didn't escape us. We saw the footage. All right, and the girl that the world was so outraged, they raped plenty of them. You saw their pants bloodied from behind. They gang raped them. But that one German Israeli girl that they actually broke her limbs, broke her legs, and twisted her arms and legs, and she was broken up in all her body was broken, and her face was beaten to a pulp. She had no face, and her poor German mother was believing that she was still alive and unconscious. She was dead, beyond dead, and then they were sitting on her body with necrophiliac sort of overtones that these people are very capable. They're animalistic. They are animals, subhumans, sub-animal. What they did and what they're capable of doing, and what they did to they beheaded a child hostage, and they sent that, put it on Telegram and TikTok and celebrated it. The underage girls, the group that they took hostage, they raped them all and filmed it and put it on TikTok and Telegram. All these videos and images have been documented. It was deliberate, and it was premeditated and planned in order to stoke this a war, to have it expand into a wider war. And there's a grander agenda behind all of it. And obviously it reveals now the true sort of sentiments of Westerners that are non-Jews, okay? There's a lot of sentiment here for wanting us as well, coming from the Christian West or the atheist West or whatever. It's their problem. We don't need to. Let them deal with their problems, and don't bother us with this. All right. Well, you're about to be bothered because this was talked about for years upon years. This is the trigger. This is the catalyst. And once the dollar dies and the euro dies, and then you have your Great Reset, you have these people armed in your countries, and they're radicalized, and they're now just as much enraged with hatred and resentment, not only for the Jews, but for anyone who dared speak up for Israel or the Jews.
Stephen was saying that Nikki Haley was talking about America receiving the Gazans, that they want to evacuate.
No, well, a lot of them have dual citizenship, and so an arrangement was struck for the past few days where they were allowed to leave and go to their adopted second home, or in Europe or America or whatever, that they have dual citizenship though. So they managed to get through the Rafah crossing, and all the so-called foreign citizens, but there are a lot of dual citizens that from Gaza that managed to get out, and now the Egyptians are pressured to start accepting the Palestinians back into Egypt. Okay, where their original bloodline and true ethnicity is originally from. Okay, these are all tribes that came from Egypt as indentured servants to Turks and Egyptian landlords that needed them as farmhands. That's how they found themselves in southern Israel. Okay, they're Egyptians, and we know their history. All right, and we know their tribes and their family names. They're not fooling anybody. And so the point being is that they're being used just as much as we've been now used as pawns. And if you read the opening lines of Ezekiel 38, it fits in perfectly. It doesn't have to be a grandiose war of huge armies. It's just they devised an evil plan, and they did what they did last week, and it was the opening salvo of Ezekiel 38.
What does Ezekiel 38 say?
Let me find it for you. 1 minute. We can properly interpret it, and Mr. Doovid can do his best to try to contest what I'm saying, because he has his own take on Judaism, and we know what his position is. It's the same position as Norman Finkelstein and Bernie Sanders. Okay, and these people are a treacherous, lying, two-faced capos that supposedly are Jewish, but they're not. If they are, they sell their people out very short, just like Sarah Silverman or Seth Rogen and these other Hollywood cocksuckers. All right, so the Lord's great victory over the nations. It's Ezekiel 38. Okay, the word of the Lord came to me, son of man, set your face against Gog. Okay, Gog is the global elite, the globalists, the people that pull the strings, the people that think that they are equivalent to God. Okay, they don't see the sky. They only see themselves as being overlords. They're the people of the roof, as Rabbi Singer describes them. Gog, they're the arrogant ones, assuming that they are as high as God, the creator. All right, that's what the reference is to Gog. Okay, it doesn't have to necessarily be one nation or one ethnicity. This is the cabal. This is the global elite trying to save their asses, the controllers, the maniacs, the Satanists, okay, the people that think that they are equivalent to the creator. So, son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog. Okay, and these are the people they rule. It's everybody under their domination. The chief prince of Meshech and Tuval, okay? So the chief prince of Meshech and Tuval is encoded in here as Obama. Okay, so he's the chief representative of the global cabal. He's the one pulling the strings behind Biden. And behind the scenes, they orchestrated all this with their mercenary Islamic fundamentalist maniac group, ISIS, which they founded with the CIA and with the Turks, okay, with Erdogan. They operated in Libya, in North Africa, and Syria, and in other places. And then they were supposed to be eradicated, but no, they went underground. They obviously trained the Hamas and the Jihad. Their flags were found on the dead bodies in their gear, ISIS flags. All right, so they were who they were, and they're some of them are still there in Gaza with the Hamas, doing these things. They're trained to rape. They're trained to mutilate. They're trained to create outrage. They're trained to do these atrocities. Okay, with heavy drugs, hard drugs that they take, and in order to do this, to turn them into subhumans, animals. Okay, so I'm continuing. Okay. The chief prince of Meshech and Tuval, and that's Obama, okay, prophesy against him and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says, I am against you. I am against you, Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tuval, the behind-the-scenes orchestrator of what just happened last week, Saturday. I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaws, and bring you out with your whole army, your horses, your horsemen, fully armed, and a great horde with a large and a small, a great horde with large and small shields, all of them brandishing their swords, the modern weapons. Okay, Persia, Cush, and Put will be with them, all with their shields and helmets. Guess who's involved in this whole sordid mess? It's Iran, it's Africa, it's also Put is you can call them the Libyans. Okay, it's all the involvement of the whole entire Middle East. Also Gomer, which is Turkey, and with all its troops, and Beth Togarma, that's the Russians, from the far north with all of its troops, the many nations with you. It's the whole mess. It's the whole kit and caboodle, the big mess that's developing now with the sides in confrontation for all their hidden agendas, and the soldiers that aren't fully aware. Most people aren't fully aware of what the real agendas are, what the real interests are, but if those in the know realize what's really happening here. Okay, so the continuation and the opening salvo is right here. Get ready, be prepared, you and all the hordes gathered about you, and take command of them. After many days you will be called to arms. In future years you will invade a land that has recovered from war, whose people were gathered from many nations, okay, to the mountains of Israel, which had long been desolate. They had been brought out from all the nations, and now all of them live in safety. You and all of your troops and the many nations with you will go up, advancing like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land. So this coalition, they're not necessarily all siding with one another. This is just the sort of like the gathering. You can call it the staging areas, the Middle East, the whole of it. And these people, this group, even though they want to come against us and devour us, they're not necessarily all on the same page. They're fighting one another. It's a mess. Okay, so you will go up, advancing like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land. Okay, this is what the sovereign Lord says. On that day, thoughts will come into your mind, and you will devise an evil scheme. What the hell do you think happened last week was? Okay, that was the evil scheme they devised and pulled on us. You will say, I will invade a land of unwalled villages. I will attack a peaceful and unsuspecting people, all of them living without walls and without gates and bars. I will plunder and loot and turn my hand against the resettled ruins and the people gathered from the nations, rich in livestock and goods, living in the center of the land. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish and all her villages will say to you, have you come to plunder? Have you gathered your hordes to loot, to carry off silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, and to seize with much plunder? Yeah, it's complicated here because that's what it's all about. It's about not only plundering; it's about saving their own asses and saving their root of power that they're desperate to protect. Therefore, Son of Man, prophesy and say to Gog, this is what the sovereign Lord says. In that day, when my people Israel are living in safety, will you not take notice of it? Will you come from your place in the far north, you and many nations with you, all of them riding on horses, a great horde, a mighty army? Yeah, that's what the militias in Syria and Iraq and Iran now are gathering to unite to come in and overrun us. You will advance against my people Israel like a cloud that covers the land. In days to come, Gog, I will bring you against my land, so that the nations may know so that the nations may know me when I am proved holy through you before their eyes. This is what the sovereign Lord says. You are the one I spoke of in former days by my servants, the prophets of Israel. At that time, they prophesied for years that I would bring you against them. This is what will happen in that day when Gog attacks the land of Israel. And that is actually what happened last week. That was the opening salvo, using us, scheming and hatching the scheme for a year or more that they hatched these animals, these satanic, occultists, seeing that they were losing control over Israel, and then they had multi-layered agendas and reasons to want to do what they did last week. So well-coordinated attack, state-sponsored, and sponsored by very powerful, interests. The satanic cabal.
The state of Israel itself. Some people.
No. What happened with the Hamas and the Jihad and ISIS, we were trying to create division between the Palestinians, and it backfired on us. And that's Ron Paul mentioned it, and it's true. The Israeli intelligence organizations were trying to divide the Palestinians and the Fatah, the PLO, and they created a monster which created a blowback and backfired on us, but not with the intention of having this happen. All right, these people were sponsored and co-opted by the Iranians and by so many other groups, the Turks, CIA, ISIS, in order to do this thing. So it's a cabal. These are the people described as Gog. Okay, this is what will happen in that day when Gog attacks in the land of Israel. My hot anger will be aroused, declares the sovereign Lord. In my zeal and fiery wrath, I declare that at that time there shall be a great earthquake in the land of Israel. The fish in the seas and the birds in the sky, the beasts in the field, every creature that moves along the ground, and all the people on the face of the earth will tremble at my presence. This is probably what's going to happen as far as the pole shift or the supernatural event that's about to occur. All right, the mountains will be overturned, the cliffs will crumble, and every wall will fall to the ground. I will summon a sword against Gog. Okay, on all my mountains, declares the sovereign Lord. Every man's sword will be against his brother. That's what happened. That's what's happening now. That's what's about to happen as a result of this war that's broken out. The whole world is now divided, and they're facing, on top of this, a global economic collapse, a monetary reset, resources being cut off, total chaos and mayhem. I will execute judgment on him with plagues and bloodshed. I will pour down torrents of rain, hailstones, and burning sulfur on him, and on his troops, and on the many nations with him. And so I will show my greatness and my holiness, and I will make myself known in the sight of many nations. Then they will know that I am the Lord. Okay, so the opening salvo of having us be overrun had occurred. Okay, how much more of that we'll have to endure? I don't know. I don't think it can happen as badly as it happened last week. Something like it can open up in the north. They evacuated 30 towns along the border just in case. But we're upon it now. All right. And Gog, as far as I can see it, is the global cabal of satanic, power-mad megalomaniacs that are from all different stripes, all different races, all different groups. Okay. And they're being gathered here. And the chief prince among them is Mr. Obama, Mr. ISIS, patron, the one that was very full of himself and very proud of all the killing he did. He gloated in all the killing he had committed. All right, during his presidency, during his tenures. All right, so he's coded in the Bible code as the chief prince of Meshech and Tuval. All right, that's him. And so everything's already in place. We're in motion, and the motion of the ocean is about to take place. I'm very convinced that any day now, with all this, escalating, it won't take too much longer. We're here, and God's presence will be felt, It's already being felt, but the Jews in Israel realize a lot, and even in America, the ones that are believers and religious realize that we are here and we are living in this prophecy right now. And as far as their genocidal talk and their rage and outrage, it was designed. They expected. This was the outcome that was anticipated. They wanted this. They wanted the Jews to rile the world up and be riled up and be outraged and be totally shocked and traumatized. So you can have Mr. Doooovid. This is also God from above judging, and God from above sort of like testing. He'll separate the wheat from the chaff, and people like Doooovid and Bernie Sanders and what's his face, Norman Finkelstein, they'll fall by the wayside. All right, he's got us separating the Jews from the frauds. All right, and the frauds are the ones that are showing their true face, and they're also mentioned. They're mentioned in Jeremiah and Zechariah in the end times. We'll see remnants of of the Jewish people from Judah that are not really Jews. They're Erev Rav, they're mixed multitudes, or they're Shedi'in Yudim, they're Jewish demons. They're demonic, mixed breeds, or sellouts, or traitors, or capos. At this stage, Mr. Doooovid is a capo. After the savagery and butchery and barbarity and a deliberate, premeditated, very close up, very intentional. He doesn't make a distinction. He wants, just like the Americans now say, it's not our problem. This, it's not. They pick and choose. They're very selective, and they want to do their selective outrage. But America is just an upside down madhouse, and so is Europe. The whole, it's just been totally perverted, totally deranged, totally demented, and it's lost itself. The people there are losing their minds. They've already lost their minds. Okay. So this kind of butchery and savagery and insanity is about to visit you, okay, because you won't speak out and say there is a distinction. And this is not, and now that you have the Jews all riled up in a state of passionate outrage and righteous outrage, righteous rage, calling for the death of our enemies, rightfully, you can cast aspersions and cast judgments and feel superior and feel all like, oh, we're so, we believe in the right, what? How did Mr. Doooovid call it? The rule of
rules-based system. I think he's
rules-based system. Yeah, rules-based. Yeah, you forget about your rules-based system. It's a total illusion with what's about to happen to you, and you see it coming, and you want to delude yourself. Fine. This is all in God's, it's all in, it's just really, it's all the calculations are, and the judgments of heaven are perfect. Okay, even if we can't understand them, and this is the test, and those that will pass will pass. Those that will fail will fail, and those that are still there are asking for it. Mr. Doooovid, I don't know. He has somewhat of a Jew-looking face. He wears a yarmulke, whatever. He still likes to, pose himself as a Jew. Live your life there, all right? Enjoy, don't come here. You've absolutely turned your back on Israel, and you think we're goners. I'll tell you that you are the goners. And what you're afraid of happening to you now, you should be fully sort of in a state of panic, because it is coming to visit you now, all right? It will visit you. Whether you want to be all, well, they brought this, well, why do they have to bring their holy war to our, country and our nation? Well, you brought the whole fucking stinking world and all of its messes upon you because you intervened all over the world. You stuck your dicks in every hole in the third world, and now they're coming back to bite you in the ass. And it's not because of the Jews. It's because you were goddamn imperialists, goddamn power mad fiends that wanted to take advantage of the whole entire world for your orgy of consumerism, not paying attention to what you were doing to the whole world, assuming that you're the superior, we're the exceptional nation, and Mr. Biden again, no, the whole world depends on us, and we're the exceptional blah, 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 bullshit. You brought this upon yourself. You meddled in the affairs of the entire world. You caused wars around the world. And now when the Jews, it's just like the Holocaust. It was the same as was Eisenhower and Doolittle and all these other people. I forgot the name of one of the top 4-star generals. We don't want to bomb the camps, the extermination camps, the concentration camps, for fear of being accused of coming to the aid of the Jews. We're fighting this war for the sake of the Jews. The impression that we would make, for America, all the sacrifice. We're sacrificing our soldiers for the Jews, right? That's why you knew had all the intelligence on the camps, and you still didn't bomb them, even though the Jews themselves that escaped told you, bomb those camps. Doesn't matter how many Jews get killed there; they're being slaughtered by the hundreds of thousands. It's better to bomb and take those camps out instead of letting them continuing to function and murdering people by the thousands upon thousands day by day. Stop the genocide there. No. What was the calculation? No, we don't want to bomb there for fear of being accused of coming to the aid of the Jews or fighting this war for the Jews. All right. So now we learned our lesson. All right. Even Bibi said it to Biden. We don't want American troops on the ground. If you're coming here to kind of back us and to give us leverage on the Iranians and Hezbollah, so that we can finish the war in Gaza and then focus our attention in the north, not to fight a 2-front war, to alleviate some of the pressure, great. But that's not what that's their excuse. They're positioning all their forces here in order to go after Iran, and when Iran responds. And when Iran retaliates, they'll close off the Straits of Hormuz, and then they'll have their perfect alibi. Oil shot up to $400 a barrel. Inflation ran wild. The banks had to shut down. Your accounts are frozen. You have no money for food. The price of food is astronomical. Nobody can afford it. And within a few days, you're going to be eating your neighbor, just like Alex Jones. I'm going to haul him up by a chain. I'm going to say, all that the cannibal song is singing. That's going to come to true if nobody does anything to stop this. But it looks like that's the calamity, and that's the judgment that's upon you and upon the whole entire world. I'm going to skin them. I'm going to bleed them. I'm going to gut them. I'm going to eat my neighbor. And I don't care. I'm not going hungry. My children are not starving. I'm going to eat you. Oh, my God. And so the hypocrisy and the duplicity and the self-delusion and all this madness that's happening now, it's fine by me. I'm not taking it to heart. I'm not losing my mind. I'm not being reactionary like a lot of the Jews living in America or Europe. And what Doooovid is taking the advantage of very slyly, very sort of like opportunistically, chiding them, criticizing them, and judging them, and being all self-righteous and I'm a better Jew than them, and how dare they, and how could they? Fucking piece of dog shit, you Doooovid, piece of dog shit, you scumbag. You and Norman Finkelstein and Bernie Sanders, I hope you all burn in hell. I'll admit my true, sentiments towards you. Burn in hell. Burn in the hell that's coming for you now. You won't get out of it. This is God's judgment upon you. You failed the test, you scumbag. Anyway, that's about it, my dear friends. Have a good night. I appreciated the platform and the time. Can you post this to my Facebook, please, Claire?
Sure.
I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Okay. Well, we'll take care, Sam.
Hello?
Hello.
Well, yeah, it was more of the same, a little bit different because of the attack, so we had a little bit more to talk about. I think we just got to stay out of this, and we got to, oh my God, the old generation just needs to die off, please. The baby boomers have got to go.
Do they really support it? I think maybe they're tired of it too. I mean, we don't know. I mean, the media says all kinds of things, claiming to speak for us. And unfortunately, I guess, if our personal accounts don't hang around, future generations will think, oh, they're so stupid. They thought this, they thought that, they said, all kinds of things. And whatever we posted online will have disappeared. So I think we kind of need something on hard copy, I think. Don't you think? Because
Yeah, maybe.
they will claim to speak for us.
Yeah, maybe. Well, we already look stupid. We can't fix anything, and I mean, it's like impossible. It's impossible. It's just it's gotta collapse or whatever. Because all the people are so fucking dumb. Nobody can fix this situation, but it is all the fucking. Well, I mean, the Jews didn't have to go over there. They caused all these problems by going over there. You didn't need to go over there. That was ridiculous. You didn't need your own homeland, nothing.
Well, I suppose, people thought it was, it's kind of made into something romantic and ancient and destined and all that sort of thing. And I guess if Israel is an American colonial outpost, it needed to be peopled, right? I mean, you need people there to kind of occupy it and say it belongs to whoever. And they were mostly, well, Gentile, or okay, they would be Americans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I suppose one of the things that Sam was saying was that everybody has been duped, Gentiles and Jews, because um, in a way Jews were also pawns of Jew of neoconservatism, of American imperialism. I mean, quite a few of them have said Israel is just a U.S. vassal state. It doesn't belong to us. It doesn't really, because it's certainly not to Jews who want to live as Jews. The well, I mean, it's a secular state, and therefore there will be this preference to um, prioritize liberal Democrats who want gay parades in Tel Aviv, and all the liberal stuff policies that exist in the West. And the Orthodox Jews complain. It's like they can't get what they want, even though they won the election. And I suppose on that ground alone, they can say, well, now we know that Israel doesn't really belong to us. It only belongs to the the American Empire. And I suppose when the American Empire collapses, then Israelis will have to come to some sort of an accommodation, because they won't get the Iron Dome and all the other stuff that they currently get while the American Empire is still in operation. I mean, Sam, he's always predicting the collapse of the American Empire, which I think World War III would bring about.
Well, we need to get out of the rest of the world. I think we would be fine if we just focused on ourselves.
Well, yes, because you of all people are self-sufficient. You don't need to, buy anything from any other country. You could just sort of, you're completely self-sufficient. But I guess the lure of empire is irresistible. It's like, oh, we can control the world, so why don't we? But then, I mean, there is, if you have a global empire, you have to run it, and there are, I guess, administrative costs, and you've got to move people here and there to run it properly, and you're going to piss off a whole bunch of people, and sometimes even your own people, and if your own people don't support it, then it really is the end. Because I mean, what are you doing it for if you're not doing it for your own people, and if your own people say no, no, we don't want this neoliberalism and neoconservatism, then you kind of cooked your own goose.
Yeah, which Europe and America did a long time ago. It's just, ugh, it's they're dumb, they're useless, and something very drastic needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite interesting, if you want to talk a bit about theology, which is that the borders of Israel are defined in the Torah, and it's actually quite a big piece of land, but but it's also saying to Jews, you can't expand beyond that, and you can't be an empire, you can't be a world empire. You can be a biggish sort of country, but you can't be an empire. And I think that the whole basis of this is that you um you're saying you in a way you're never born, because the moment you are born you are you move towards death. And empire is a form of death. It's like, well, once you have an empire, there will be a time when your empire falls. So you are kind of setting yourself up for well, decline and extinction. So if you never have an empire, you won't have that problem.
Yeah, you just shouldn't become an empire. I mean, anyone who becomes an empire, it winds up the worst for them because they expand over all these different races, and then all the different races want to move into the heart of the empire.
Yes, that's what they always do. And then everybody gets so shocked and horrified, because it's like, this is what happened to the Roman Empire. And I'm sure the Athenians complained about it too, because but when you're really successful, you invade all these countries and then you bring them home as slaves, and then you lower the what do you call it, the wages of the local proletariat, and then they hate you. And then then you fix one problem, and then you create another problem somewhere else, until eventually you go mad, I guess. And I remember listening, I don't know where I heard it from, but I think it was some Japanese person who said, um, if you want to keep your country to yourself, you just have to make sure that you do your own dirty work, and you have to keep your proletariat in order, which means basically treat them properly and make them want to do their work, or feel that proud to be a member of that country, because once a proletariat feel ashamed and hate their ruling classes, it is the end. Because um, I guess the difference is that if you're wealthy, you can always forget your problems, your troubles. You go shopping, you uh, have a nice holiday, and you don't mind things so much. But if you're not that wealthy, then you'll just be stewing about lots of things, and why your country is unfair, and you create the seeds of your own destruction by pissing off too many of your own proletariat, which is kind of what's happened to America, which is why they're so scared of Trump, right? That's why the liberal establishment is so afraid of Trump and his supporters. But I like to think that secular karate can ride to the rescue, because it's sort of saying, look what you've done to yourself. You did it to yourselves. You can't really, it's like Jews and Gentiles have done it to themselves. By being confused about their identity and refusing to practice their religion properly, and then refusing to feel properly ashamed of it. And Christians, it's like, well, they basically made up the rules as they go, as they went along, and those rules are wrong, and that's why they keep changing the law so often to cover up their mistakes. And now nobody respects the law because it changes so often that nobody even knows what it is, including the ruling classes. And so I think that the whole thing is run on the basis of confidence, and once you've lost the confidence of most of the people, it's very hard to get it back again. And I guess you can only do that when you have a revolution and wipe the slate clean and say, we're very sorry, here's the new thing, let's hope we can do better next time. I mean, you've got to admit your mistakes, or nobody will take you seriously. Because everybody, I'm sure even the dimmest person knows that something's wrong. And this brings me to the story of Jonah, which is, well, I suppose it's quite, well, it's a story of redemption, isn't it?
Jonah and the whale.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, the story was that Jonah he didn't even like the Ninevites. He didn't want to go there, but he was told to by God, and he rebelled and went the other way until his ship nearly sank. Right, and then he was swallowed up by a whale. It vomited him up on the beach of Nineveh, and reluctantly he went to the Ninevites, and miraculously almost they listened to him and they repented and were saved. Well, that's the story anyway. But I mean, a lot of these stories are saying repentance is always an option, and there's kind of this deal, isn't it? Like, well, as long as you repent before you're dead, you'll be all right, or in theory anyway. That God forbids, will forgive you, but if after you're dead, well, then it'll be too late.
Didn't Washington convert to Catholicism on his deathbed?
Are you sure?
I think so. One of them converted to Catholicism on their deathbed.
Well, it wasn't Washington. I mean, I did read his stuff.
Yeah, I just had to. Yeah, I had to use the restroom.
Well,
Go
welcome
ahead.
back, Sam. Did you have something more to say, or something you'd forgotten to say?
Me, no, I just wanted to come back and join the conversation,
And hang
so
out.
people wouldn't think I just kind of dashed out with like a dramatic exit.
Yes.
Okay,
You know.
no, okay. Washington had a Catholic priest brought to his bed on his deathbed, and it's rumored that he converted on his deathbed.
Oh no! What a terrible story. But I mean, it's not kind of generally known or generally kind of you know talked about, or is it a new thing? Is that a recent discovery or a
No, I
recent
was
topic?
told about it in school. But now I'm reading. Well, they're suspicious because he sent for this Catholic priest that was so far away, and he wasn't a Catholic. And why did he call Catholic? And then they said he was very close to Catholics during his administration.
Right, because I'm looking for his religious views, because Wikipedia have been quite good about okay, I've only got personal life, religion and Freemasonry, religious views of George Washington, and then I mean the heading is Anglican affiliations, attendance at religious services, baptism, private writing, support of religious toleration, eyewitness accounts, deism and scholarly views. It's quite long. Death and burial. Okay, so this is what it says on Wikipedia. On his deathbed, Washington did not summon a minister or priest. After his death, he was buried according to the rite of the Episcopal Church, with the Reverend Thomas Davis, rector of Christ Church, Alexandria, officiating. Masonic rites were also performed by members of his lodge. alleged religious conversions. And unverified stories from Catholic sources say that on his deathbed, Washington converted to Catholicism. In an 1883 Catholic publication, his coloured body servant came riding down to the bank of the Potomac. Potomac? How do you pronounce it?
Potomac.
Potomac. And one of the old Jesuit fathers from the mission on the Maryland side was found. Well, in May 1900, it was a Catholic priest, Leonard Neal, that was summoned to Mount Vernon. The Neal-specific story says that the night before his death, several of Washington's slaves were sent to St. Thomas Manor in Maryland by rowboat, where they found Neal, the superior of the Jesuit manor. They ferried him to Mount Vernon, where he heard Washington's confession, conditionally baptized him, and received him into the Catholic Church. Martin I.J. Griffin stated in a Catholic research publication that the alleged visit of Father Neal was improbable and that nothing in Washington's life gives a basis for a belief in its probability. There's also the other religious conversion that is alleged to have taken place during the American Revolution. Washington was said to have been baptized as an adult in a full immersion baptism by John Garneau, a Baptist chaplain in the Continental Army. The baptism variously either took place in the Hudson River or perhaps the Potomac River. Historian Mary B. Thompson discounts both the story of the Baptist immersion and of the Catholic deathbed conversion. So there you are, according to Wikipedia.
I guess it was just, well, when I was in school, we were taught that it was real, so.
Ah.
I guess I don't know. But yeah, because nobody was really Catholic back then, or to be a Catholic was kind of a big thing. I mean, if you remember, I don't know if you knew, but when when what was his name? Kennedy. What was Kennedy's first name?
John F. Kennedy.
Oh,
Robert
yeah,
F.
John.
Kennedy?
Yeah, John Kennedy. When John Kennedy was running, it was a big deal that he was a Catholic.
All right. Because back then, yeah, America was more waspy. The ruling class was WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants and everything. You know what? You know who's covering this the subject that I was just talking about very conspicuously? It's a channel called Redacted. The couple, the Mars couple, they're saying the headline they're providing is breaking: U.S. pushing for war against Iran using Israel as bait. Now, I'm fully in agreement with that statement. You know, it's exactly what I just said, and it's obvious. But the division and the divisiveness that's been created, it's stoking the whole entire world to take sides now. It's like, it's very odd, you know. It's like, especially in the West, you know. But what I just said also with the prophecy, I wanted to add something about, you know, my personal interpretation of the return of the Jews to Israel and resettling the land and having those, you know, those kibbutzim. They were all peaceniks, right? So it says there in that prophecy that it would be towns that would have no gates and no security and no and people can interpret that incorrectly because those kibbutzes did have a large gate at their entrance that they'd left wide open, or that because it was on this, they don't keep the Sabbath there. The terrorist, ISIS, Hamas, the jihad terrorists took advantage of hiding in the bushes and waiting for a car to come by to have the gate open, and then they ambushed the car, killed all the people in the car, and kept and then started rushing into the kibbutz to commit their mass murder and mutilation and pure barbarism, you know. So in truth, those kibbutzim were unguarded, and they were left without security. It's just that measly gate that you can easily bypass by just waiting for a car. to come by, and they use the telephone, their cell phone. They call in to a number, and then the gate opens. It's just like a token form of security to keep strangers out, or infiltrators out. But it's easily, you saw how there was footage of it. They filmed it. There was security cameras. They just waited in the bushes. The whatever car came by, opened the gate, killed everybody, killed the whole family in the car, and then started ransacking and murdering, raping, and burning, and atrocities, beheadings, and all that. So, in truth, all the kibbutzim, about 24 out of 25, had no security.
Yeah,
So
I heard that for 8 hours they ran.
Yeah, they butchered them. They
8
tortured
hours
them. Yeah, they tortured them, raped them, butchered them
with
for
no
yeah.
response from the
Yeah, you know what I'm hearing?
forces.
It's a real a sort of a gnawing suspicion that what really happened here, whether it was a stand down or not, but it seems like our top internal security officer took responsibility and said that he ignored the threat. And even the commanders, the officers in the command bunkers and the outposts overlooking the border, with the lookout observation posts, the mostly manned by female soldiers. They were ringing the alarms, and they were telling their commanders, "Look, they're coming. They're probing the fence. They're taking pictures. They're pointing things out. They're planning. They're scheming." And their commanders told them, "Ignore it." They were really arrogant in assuming that the Arabs living in the Strip have no real resources or means of invading or attacking. They really legitimately, out of a sense of overconfidence, they underestimated the capabilities of the terrorists in the Gaza Strip, and they didn't do enough intelligence gathering to realize that they were, and even though
It's a
Hamas.
conspiracy theory being supported by Hanani.
Yeah, you have Israeli officers, and you have even the former female, soldiers that had worked in the lookouts, observing the fence and being a security for the border and for the fence, saying that it was a major fuck up, but it could have been a deliberate fuck up, a deliberate stand down. Again, we have Freemasons and occultists in Israel on the left and on the far left that actually serve the interests of the cabal. And whether it was a deliberate stand down or really underestimating the terrorists in the Gaza Strip, you had our media, the corporate media here, saying we laughed at them and we mocked them with their motorized gliders and the training that they were putting on display for the whole world. They invited the press to cover their training, and they thought it was all token, sort of like saber rattling, or for show, or for drama. But they were training legitimately, and they were showing the whole world what they were planning on doing. And it's so amateur hour and so ridiculous that we were preoccupied with our internal political divides over the judicial reform and other issues that had taken our attention. And so you have people saying, the chief of the internal security, the Shabak, saying, "I take responsibility for having ignored the Gaza border and the residents of the Gaza Strip that were training not residents, well, you could call them the indoctrinated mad dogs that did what they did, whether it was in coordination with ISIS or in collaboration with actual ISIS fighters, which is probably what happened." It's a combination of all of them. You can't really make any distinctions between them now. They're all one and the same at this point. They've delegitimized themselves. They've lost all credibility with this level of barbarism and savagery. It's on the level of not even the Nazis. It's on the level of what happened about 400 years ago in what's called the Khmelnytsky uprising in Ukraine with the Cossacks that actually committed these kinds of atrocities on this level. To do what they did to that pregnant woman, it's what the Cossacks did to the Jews in Ukraine. They actually did things that are unspeakable. They also tore babies out of their living mothers. And what did they do? They tore the fetus out, and let it die, killed it, threw it on the ground, and then they took a cat and they stitched it inside the womb, that where they tore out the fetus, and let the cat eat the woman from the inside out while they sewed the cat into her belly. And it's like, who thinks up these kinds of things? Who thinks up these kinds of things?
This is war propaganda, maybe designed to manipulate people into.
No, but the footage has been documented by the actual terrorists that used GoPro cameras.
Okay, I don't know. I mean, I know.
No, but you know what, Claire? You know why I don't. I can understand you're arguing that it's war propaganda in order to stoke outrage and a lust for a vengeance and a bloodlust for vengeance. I understand, but this stuff over the past week, from when it happened, was posted to Telegram and to TikTok, and millions of people saw it. Okay, and the actual now footage from the actual perpetrators with the GoPro cameras has been analyzed. They won't release this to the public because it's way too gruesome and it's way too barbaric. But what was left behind in the rave party in the desert is, was also posted online. Those two sisters that were gang raped and burned alive, their bodies were left there in that state. Okay, and that was actually provided as evidence, and people did get to see all of that. And the beheaded infants. Okay, you had people from the U.S. Embassy, officers, both military and civilian, that went and saw that with their own eyes, just like the same case as what happened after the Holocaust that had to be documented. So people would say that never happened, that would assume or try to pass it off as some sort of exaggeration. Now, the issue of what happened 400 years ago, that I can understand could be questioned and could be said to be like an exaggeration in order to vilify the Cossacks. But in this day and age, with the information age and the cameras and the fact that all of that stuff was posted to Telegram and TikTok on the Gaza Now channel of the Hamas, and they gleefully, proudly celebrated it. All right, that is inexcusable and unforgivable.
But
and that stuff,
Sam, look
and that stuff has been downloaded. Mm-hmm. Say what?
Well, I'm just trying to say that you know at some level that people were killed, women were raped, there was torture, and there were atrocities, and you can think of it. You can accept it, but
Yeah.
I don't think your view of it should change just because you saw a video. It's like, yeah, we know that. So
What view?
people were
What
raped,
view?
women,
What view
it's
is
like
that? Though?
hmm?
What view would change of their gruesome tactics, of what they're
Well, no,
capable of?
because if you remember when ISIS was going strong,
Yeah.
there was a kind of choreographed violence. It was all very theatrical. It made me think of Steven Spielberg. All the
There was some of that going on. Yeah,
and
I agree.
beheading them all at the same time.
No.
In
But you
some
know what?
kind of
Actually,
synchronized action.
that I remember the actual footage from the studios and how they did that. But this is the actual perpetrators and filming themselves while high on very powerful psychotropic drugs that they took.
Yeah,
And
we heard about that in Ukraine as well. The atrocities.
the Azov
Yeah.
and the Russians actually showed the drugs, and they showed the bodies of the Azov Nazis that had taken those drugs, those hard drugs, to keep them awake and fighting and being sort of fanatical and all that, just running on pure, smack or whatever drugs that they were taking, very powerful sort of stimulants or whatever. But the thing is, about them filming it and posting it, that was used as a premeditated psychological warfare in order to traumatize and get people, feeling
It's not
helpless.
just Jews who are being traumatized, or
Yeah, no,
we're
yeah,
all being kind of made to take sides. I mean, I don't
yeah,
know if you've been blocked or whatever, but the people come up to me and say, which side do you support? You have
right.
to support my favorite team, or I'm gonna block you. And this, I think, is yet another psyops against us, but by just
Hmm.
dividing us. It's like, here's another conspiracy theory, and you have to choose. And if you don't
Right.
choose, you're going to be estranged from your brother, your friend, your girlfriend,
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, just like
Because
the COVID. Yeah.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
on
and
YouTube,
it's
right?
another
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. I understand. And that's why it's very suspicious. And people are not trusting
That's
what
why
they're
we should all
hearing.
take it with a pinch of salt. It's like, yeah, we know people were killed, women were raped, there were atrocities, but the overarching attitude we should take is, who is
Cui
they
bono,
want another war. They
yeah,
want
cui
another
bono, who
war.
benefits,
America wants another war.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's obviously we've gotten accustomed to questioning everything we're told and everything we're sold, because we've been lied to and tricked and manipulated so many times by the cabal, and
Yes,
we
yes,
know.
and the thing is there is this narrative, and all this sort of beheaded babies thing. But will the British spread
What?
wartime propaganda against the Germans, that saying that were bayoneting babies in Belgium, you know, just
No.
just to get the British wanting to kill Germans,
Oh
right?
yeah, of course. The case was made also for what was done in the early '90s with the Kuwaitis claiming that the Iraqis were killing children in their incubators and letting them
Yeah.
die. Okay, but at this in this episode, the thing is, it's undeniable because it was seen by hundreds of thousands, if not more, people before it was taken down by Telegram and TikTok. So those videos are actually still around, but
I
they
mean, I
are
saw
horrific.
one of the girl being burnt, and somebody said, I mean, I couldn't really tell. I mean, that was the one that I was being threatened over. And I showed it to somebody else, and she said, "Well, it's not that girl, and this place was, taken in another country, and we don't know. I mean, we see lots of violent stuff on
Hmm.
Twitter. Supposed to, oh, you're supposed to hate blacks for this, and another thing." They don't really have a context. You just see some people being beaten up, but you don't know the whole story. And well, anyway, I guess I'm just saying. Well,
Yeah, I can
we
understand
should
people's
beware.
distrust of what they're being told and what they're being sold. But the gory, kind of horrific, gruesome images and graphic images, it's honestly it's there, and
Yes, I've seen a
people,
few.
yeah, and people in Israel have seen a lot of it because they wanted they. I didn't want to believe it. Honestly, the same night my brother told me that infants were beheaded, and that a pregnant woman was mutilated and her child was ripped out of her, and she was
In a
all that.
way, it's okay. You've heard stuff like that before as well.
But
Children
then the
being
footage comes out.
feet.
The.
Okay.
But the thing is, the questioning of it and the distrust of it. When you have so many witnesses to it, a the soldiers that had to go and sort of witness it and bury the bodies, and they brought in people from the embassy, the U.S. embassy, to actually see it with their own eyes. and then you could see the literal shock and sort of on their faces that they weren't, putting on an act, and these atrocities were committed, and it was designed to solicit this kind of reaction of disgust, of outrage, of a sense of helplessness, and then a desire for vengeance, and then
Yes, and division
and
amongst
yeah,
people. Like,
and
how
also a
could you see such a
desire,
thing and not
yeah,
feel you have to
yeah,
do
and
X, Y, Z?
it's also a reason to dismiss the other side's humanity and dehumanize them in return for their inhumanity and dehumanizing us. It's a mutual back and forth dehumanization. So people here, and I understand them, and in a way, I can also relate. We're fed up, and we don't need this, sort of like constant. Dilemma like a cancer in our body, that we can't expel, we can't sort of resolve, despite all the world's
Well, it
efforts.
can be resolved,
That
sir.
the people of Gaza received more financial aid than all of Europe per capita after the Second World War, the money that the Marshall Plan provided for the Europeans.
They'll
You
never
know?
be happy because, in a way, it's like it was only the last few days that I discovered what Hamas wanted. They actually
Yeah.
said, we want Israel to live under Sharia, and that was a surprise to me because I didn't know. I mean, from all the media reports about what Hamas wants, I
Yeah.
thought they said, well, we're going to just exterminate all those Jews, and actually, even if you don't agree, it's a kind of modus vivendi, which it seems the Neturei Karta are prepared to accept, because the Orthodox Jews think living under Sharia is a piece of cake, because
Yeah, well,
Islam is Judaism light.
no,
So
no,
it's the
well,
secular Jews
it's not.
who have a
Yeah,
problem with it.
it's not about Islam. These people totally delegitimize themselves
No, no,
by
I'm not saying it
they
is about.
and the dismiss, and in this case, I will use the card, and I won't dismiss it, of all the people that they slaughtered mercilessly and cold bloodedly, and in the name of their religion, in the name of trying to compel the Jews to become religious, conservative Muslims. You haven't sold us on this. Not That's not the way to sell us on your so-called peaceful religion, your
Well,
world religion of that you want to sell to the world. At this point, they made us absolutely antithetical and really antagonistic towards them, to the point of wanting to literally genocide all of them, impulsively.
this reminds me of, I don't know if you've heard of Adar Weinreb. He's this liberal
Who?
Jew.
Who?
I appeared on his channel, but he's one of those liberal Jews who, um, will talk to Palestinian Arabs, and I've been on his channel twice, and I think he's quite prepared to talk to people, and I think he'd be quite good on his show. And
No, but at this point, people can call it okay. Like Jones said, okay, well, the Palestinians just bloodied the Israelis' nose, and they kind of like stirred up, a nest of hornets, a hornet's nest, and they managed to get this reaction, and it was intended by the real people that orchestrated this and that wanted this kind of. It was, whether it's the Iranians or the cabal or a multi, like a multifaceted interest, base that did this, that desired this, that wanted this, that activated this when they saw fit to activate it. That's true. You could do all your analysis on the bigger picture and global politics and global geopolitics, whatever, and cloak and dagger and false flags and operations, black
The
ops, and all.
affirmation of your mutual identity. Because, when I first
No,
heard
no, but
about
the
it,
hatred is there on a spiritual level, Claire. We literally hate them, and they literally hate us. And
yes,
no,
yes.
there's no.
So
I
it's
mean,
no
there's.
surprise
I work
that
with
these
Arabs.
atrocities are committed.
Yeah, I
That
can.
is the
The Jews,
point.
Jews and Arabs, Jews and Muslims have lived together for hundreds of years in the Middle East, in
Until
relative
the
peace,
American Empire.
until the British Empire, and in the British Freemasons. Okay, but God's will was that the Jewish state should be established in order to fulfill end times prophecy. That cannot be, in my humble opinion, ignored, or you can't retreat from
Yeah, but
that.
in a way you owe it to Hitler, don't you? If
Well, it
he
was
hadn't
part.
persecuted Jews,
Well, again,
you might have ended up in Uganda or somewhere.
I'll refer to Joseph Atwell, and I'll agree with his analysis on the British Freemasonic, orchestration of the Nazi Party and of Hitler. The Theosophical Society and the Thule Society, the connections are very clear and they're undeniable. The Satanic Luciferian British Freemasons, along with eugenicists in America, Malthusians in the 19th century, and all sorts of mystics and everything, did concoct these long-term visions of theirs. And they did actually deliberately intend for anti-Semitism in Germany and in Europe to drive the Jews out of Europe. They didn't want them in Europe. So it's not necessarily Hitler and the Nazis that you need to thank. You need to thank the British Freemasons, the Fabian Milner Society, and all these agents of the royals. The Freemasons, the British Freemasons. They are really the nefarious, sinister group that you need to pay much attention to, because they're the ones who really helped create Hitler. It wasn't just spontaneously or organically. There are clear connections to their goals and aims, and also having to do with Bolshevism. Behind the scenes, really, who pulled the strings? You got to listen. Atwell is spot on. Atwell is a real truth teller. I'm not going to thank Hitler and the Nazis, and I'm not going to thank the Helena Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society for putting us through. And it's even part of their ethos. She writes this in her books, that this is somehow a benevolent and correct to put the world through this kind of agony and misery. It's in her beliefs that it's this kind of suffering.
That's what Rabbi Avigdor Miller, he also says that, doesn't he?
He might be a Freemason. There are a lot of Jewish Freemasons in England. Okay, there are a lot of British Jewish Freemasons that came out of England, and there are a lot of them even in America that have joined this fraternal order and secret society. What they believe in is anathema, if it means deliberately causing the suffering and death and mass slaughter of millions of people. So the Jews right now are honestly. So the Jews are now. I could tell you what their psychological state is, because I'm going through it myself. They are having flashbacks to the Holocaust. They're being very emotional and reactionary, and they're being very sort of like passionate as far as calling for the extermination of the entire Gaza Strip and its entire population. We want to be rid of this burden that's been carried for decades now, and the back and forth of the blame game. After all that had happened to us throughout history, we know that we deserve to have our national ancient homeland back as our sovereign state. The world refuses because of the replacement religions that were born on our backs, Christianity and Islam, both manufactured by for political intrigues, geopolitical, geoeconomic intrigues via war, through lies, through deceptions, and we've had enough of it, and we've been used, and we've been treated as the punching bag or the scapegoat for centuries. And we're not going to give up on the refuge that we've created for ourselves, despite the fact that we've had this thorn left here in our side that we didn't want to have in our side. A lot of Jews, after the 6-Day War, said immediately, return the Gaza Strip back to Egypt. Don't occupy it. It's going to be a literal cancer. And it turned out to be a cancer. And those people were under the rule of the Egyptians for the longest time, and they're Egyptians. All right, so we didn't want to occupy them and run their lives and give them an excuse to blame us for all their troubles, and actually, over generations, turn out to be, Nazi impersonators that even are now outdoing the Nazis. And it's not. And again, we go through this a process of having to prove the fact that we went through, something, these kinds of horrors that now have been documented and preserved by the actual, culprits, the actual perpetrators, and then it still gets put under question and has to be proven. So all this stuff has to be strewn out in front of the world. And I'm sure it's going to be there for people that want to see it. I don't think
anybody doubt that, people were hurt on both sides. It's just that, people with a predisposition to Jews will, believe Jews, and people who, so I don't think, okay, we're just arguing about numbers. But, I mean, ultimately, it's about, and this is something I did particularly want to discuss with you, about the conception of Zionism. So
right. Well, who has the real?
And there is a verse in the Quran that says God is a Zionist. So, and when I mention it to Muslims, they go crazy.
Well, who has the real inside track on political Zionism? It's Atwell. He's really has got the acumen and the memory and the facts and details and the real sort of a story behind the story. As far as the Jews yearning to want to return to their land and recover their a birthplace, the land of their birth as a nation, and their homeland, it's prior to the 19th century. It wasn't called Zionism. It was called
what I'm trying to say.
And I'm just saying it was called a basic Jewish beliefs and a basic Jewish yearnings and Jewish.
Yes, it's completely understandable. Yeah. So my point was that the moment Jews were expelled from their homeland, which was centuries ago, it created the desire to return. Because if anybody kicked you out of your home right now, it would create a desire for you to return to it and retake possession of it.
Right.
So, whatever it was called, I mean, the desire was generated upon expulsion. And there's nothing surprising about it. I suppose, it drives Gentiles crazy because they said, well, why do Jews have this word called Zionism, and why does, ultimately...
Yeah, well, they could ask Joseph Atwell. He's the real expert on that. No, he's the real expert on political Zionism. Even though it can seem dry and very involved. Yeah, but it actually is a conspiracy from the 19th century that began with the British Freemasons, honestly. With the political Zionism of Europe that was based on reforming Judaism and having it be a competitor to Christianity, which was what the Catholic Church took issue with, that political is sort of the organic or the populist form of early Zionism was not about nationalism. It was about creating an alternative to Christianity and Islam in the form of Reform Judaism. And who took issues with that? Obviously, it was the establishment in Europe. It was the Catholic Church, and it was the royals, because it threatens their claim to power and claim to
I don't see
to
how.
rulership.
How?
No, he saw it was Dave. What's his name that Atwell mentioned? Geiger, David Geiger, that in Europe that was pushing for Reform Judaism as a world religion and an alternative to Christianity and Islam for all people, including the Gentiles, not just a Jewish movement. It was a
Yeah, but the
universal.
Orthodox Jews regard reform as
Yeah, well,
heretics.
you see, that's why it was undermined by the power elites in Europe, which actually the Freemasons, the British Freemasons, wanted to get the Jews out of Europe because they saw in them competitors that could, over time rattle the population to the point where they would question the authority of the royals, or of the right. What is that expression? The divine right of kings, or the divine right of the
Yeah,
Pope.
but that's already been undermined.
And that happened. That happened more later in the 19th century with communism and Bolshevism, which were the Jews were at the
It was all
at the
undermined
at the
in the
helm of, or
revolution.
with ideologically and intellectually. So the thing is,
It was
the
already
Jew,
undermined. But
but the Jews were very influential, and they were very attractive to a lot of Gentiles, to create these idealistic movements and ideological
they were never
movements.
going to convert to Judaism.
Yeah. And that's why the royals, the British Freemasons, and the other secret societies, including the church, wanted to co-opt the Enlightenment, and they wanted to co-opt the Jews and have them by hook or crook return to Israel, or expelled from Europe. At least they didn't want them as competition.
Well, this whole thing. Have you heard of British Israelism?
No, what is that?
It's basically, okay, I mean, I've been to one of their churches, and it's basically these British English Gentiles pretending that they're really the Jews.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they have this, crazy idea that Jesus might have, visited
Oh yeah.
Britain. It's all, people they romanticize the Jews. I mean, some people think they're magic
You know
or
why?
something.
It's because of the Romans, honestly, and because of the incestuous relationship of
No,
the
no, because
royals of that ruled here
God's chosen
with the
people.
Romans, and it was during the Dark Ages. The dawning of the post classical, and the dawning of the Dark Ages and everything. That period of history was very unstable, and so a lot of fables and a lot of storytelling and a lot of myths and all that created the foundation of Europe's culture. The true culture of Europe is based on a lot of horse shit, lies and myths
Exactly. So they've
and
got to
fables.
kick out their Christianity, and they
Mhm.
still can't bear to come to terms with it. That they've been made to believe in nonsense for nearly 2,000 years, and they need to come to terms with it,
Yeah, but that's
because
why they
otherwise
can't think rationally now, because that's why even what's happening to the
it's
Jews
driving
now,
them mad.
it's right now it's a post-Holocaust trauma. That's what we witnessed is honestly driving everybody here up the walls with reactionary emotionalism, and to the point of no tolerance for anyone or anything. This has pushed us over the edge, just as
Yeah, it's
what's
driving
happening now.
Jews and Gentiles crazy. Christianity and post-Christianity, all the ideologies, communism, fascism, Nazism, it's basically driving them crazy. You know, and,
Mhm.
and, and, and what's happened is that they haven't got a religion that they can believe in. That's why their ruling classes are so evil. They make up the rules as
Yeah,
they go
well,
along.
they manipulate us still, and using all the sentiments that were ingrained over and over still through education and through a passing down faith and culture and beliefs, and they know how
Yeah,
to
because if you
manipulate
think
that.
of Christianity, it's a religion of anti-Semites who worship a Jew.
I don't care about that.
What? You're
And you know
driving me crazy
what I'm at
if you
this
had to
point.
believe in that shit.
What I'm seeing right now is that they managed to get the Gentile world believing again that the Jews are responsible for all the world's troubles and problems. And now, by making Israel the focal point, they've managed to create a super smokescreen and a super distraction and play on people's emotions and
Yeah, they're going
sentiments.
to say it's those Jews again,
Yeah, and so
causing
it's a
trouble.
far more effective a a tool of distraction and diversion and misdirection, and than the Ukraine war. The Ukraine war lost its ability to capture people's attention and to be as divisive as it could be, to get people focusing on fighting with one another instead of realizing what the greater, grander, you know, scheme and agenda is of the power elite that are in a power struggle. It's a real power struggle between the power elite and those that oppose them, and those that want to
Yes, and
break
it
away
can
from them.
be defeated through theology because these narratives are so powerful and people instinctively understand them. So,
Yeah,
so when people talk about Zionism, and okay, I think I can say to Muslims, why are you complaining? Actually, Allah is a Zionist. There is a verse in the Quran that actually says Jews have the right to dwell in Israel until the end times. It's chapter 17, 104. Would you like to look that up if you don't believe me?
yeah.
Have
Well,
I mentioned that verse before?
what Islam turned into is again, and the Arab world is again not about being faithful to their book. It's about domination and conquest. It was Jay Dyer on Alex Jones. He's a very good analyst. He's saying that again. It's the British elites, the Milner Fabian Society, but these people that serve the royals and the World Economic Forum. Okay, they used Christianity the religion, or the sort of like the real sword and instrument for global imperial domination. It's a mind control instrument that is very effective as a useful tool. So now it's lost its effectiveness. It's not as effective, and they're actually weighing using Islam as a means of conquering the world spiritually on a faith-based system of mind control. It's actually
All,
the
all religions are like that,
white
or even
Christians,
communism.
that even T.E. Lawrence converted to Islam before he died on his
Yeah, because it's
motorcycle.
easier to believe than Christianity. It is like Muslims believe that God created the universe, and
All right, but
oh,
at this point, it's Islam is also in the West, at the hands of the social engineers that are the powerful.
yeah, they're going to,
In,
to
you know,
to to mess around with the interpretation, and
yeah.
unfortunately,
So they
most
turn
people just can't
Muslims.
be
So they
bothered to
turn
read the book themselves.
yeah. So they turn Arabs and Muslims into reactionary fanatics and lunatics. And the Muslims in Europe are reactionary fanatics and lunatics. A lot of them. You could see the videos of in England in London in Speaker's Corner. That you had an Indian, very dark skinned Indian Christian trying to interview a rabid young Muslim teenager, And the rabid young Muslim teenager in his English accent with kind of like the sort of like a trashy English accent, very low class sounding, not very posh, very low class English accent, says, I hate you, and I hate the Jews, I hate Christians, and I hate Jews, and I'm commanded to kill you. And if I had the chance, I would kill you. He's like a stupid teenager. And this was at Speaker's Corner. And he's yelling at this poor Indian a reporter, and he's being videotaped. And so this is the impression you get now of Muslims in the West. That and Alex Jones also said it, that they're not productive. They're mostly on welfare. They're mostly trashy. They're just like low class white trash in England, except dark-skinned Muslim versions of it. And the same goes in America. They become like black thugs, like low-class BLM, like Black Lives Matter. That's like the Muslims and them are on the same level of thuggish behavior and boorish behavior. And, they've been perverted. They've been sort of made, low class.
I
So
think it's they have a youth bulge, because Muslims have children, and there's just sort of more of them, and Speaker's Corner is dominated by Muslims.
Yeah, but at this point, that guy, the Indian reporter that went there, actually, managed to get this footage that is actually stoking more hatred for Muslims amongst Christians now in America and in Europe.
There's all these YouTubers who go to Speaker's Corner to produce content.
Yeah.
And some of them want to provoke a reaction, like this Hatun Tash, who likes provoking Muslims. They attack her, and then, she's got a lot of content, and they go to her YouTube channel. It's a game to many of these people.
Yeah, but it's actually proving to be effective in getting people to act out violently. And people are ready to, go at each other's throats now, impulsively and very ignorantly, without thinking, would just be acting out impulsively. And so you're kind of trying to reason with them and tell them, look, it's even in the Quran, it says that the Jews are supposed to return to their land and live in their land until the end times. And they can't accept that because they see that as a sort of an insult to Islam. As an imperial.
This idea of Zionism. I mean, I've been trying to say that you don't have to like Jews to be a Zionist. In fact, Nazis can be Zionists, because the whole point of saying that Jews should have a homeland because we don't like our Jews and we have to find somewhere to dump them. That was the original intent of the creation of Hitler and the Nazi Party. I don't believe that the British secret societies, the Theosophical Society, and then the German one, the offshoot of it, the Thule Society, actually intended on mass genociding the Jews. That was their last desperate sort of final solution. They wanted the Jews. It was actually what's his face? The one of the architects of the final solution, Eichmann, Adolf Eichmann, that was here in Haifa, in the German colony, in the downtown Haifa, trying to survey the land in order to relocate or to deport the Jews of Europe to Israel. All right, so they were following their they were following. Wait, can I say something? They were following their doctrine, their founding doctrines that emanated from the British Theosophical Society and from British Freemasonry. Okay, this was what happened in England in the early 19th century. With Lord Palmerston, that all of a sudden decided it's time for the Jews to return to Palestine or to Israel. And what drove him? What was his motivation? Again, he did not want a populist movement to rise up against the ruling elites in England, in Europe, and in England,
via a Reform Judaism that was designed to be a universal faith that would challenge both Christianity and Islam and the ruling class and the Vatican. So that was the real intention of British political Zionism that was co-opted, that co-opted the real organic universalist Zionism that was beginning to pop up in Europe. Okay, they saw that as a threat. That was a real threat to their power. They didn't want the Jews being as influential as they are and as capable of winning people over, to win them over to a more accepting form of Judaism that wasn't tribal, more like a universal religion for all Gentiles and Jews alike, Reform Judaism. Okay, that's actually what stoked political Zionism that was controlled by the British, Freemasons that were mostly all Anglicans. Okay, that's what Joe always wanted to know. What was their driving motivation? And I told him this. Maybe he doesn't want to believe it, but that's honestly the real reason. They didn't want bourgeois Jews that were up and comers to challenge their position of power in Europe and their long-standing traditional role as the hierarchy, the ruling elites there. All right, they saw competition in the Jews of Europe. That's why they didn't want them there, and it ended up where I don't believe they wanted it to end up in genocide, but that's where it ended up. It's all their stoking of hatred. They're the ones who authored the Protocols of Zion, and Joe proved it, that it came out of the British Freemasons, the Theosophical Society, Helena Blavatsky, and all these fuckers, in order to stoke hatred for the Jews, in order for the Gentiles to resent the Jews, in order for the Jews to feel unwelcomed in Europe. And that's where it ended up in the Holocaust.
Yeah, because you're useful as a scapegoat, so that the government can, have these unpopular policies and then blame Jews when it goes wrong.
Yeah, and it's happening again now. So they're desperate.
Yeah,
they're desperate. Okay, so let me. Joe knows this.
Collectors and whatever.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have the hand of God hovering above all of this and navigating and controlling all this. As a believer, which is what I am, I cannot overlook that. Joe's not a believer necessarily. You aren't either. But I see the real hidden hand. It's not the hidden hand of secret societies or the Jesuits or the Freemasons. It's now it's becoming the revealed hand of the creator of the universe. And his means and his methods and his ability to judge perfectly to the T, without notwithstanding that most people can't accept this and can't understand this and can't make sense of it. But it is a perfect form of, you get what you deserve, and this is judgment, and it has a lot to do with reincarnated souls and God's heavenly courts and how everything honestly falls into place. It can be very confusing. It could be very disturbing. It could be very, unsettling, whatever. You just can't make sense of it. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to be loyal to my faith, you could call it the same as being a loyal Muslim. You say, the Muslims say they're Allahu Akbar, and I'll say, Kol b'yedei Shamayim. Everything is in the hands of God, and He's the real one in charge. Okay, you submit to God's a determination of where things end up, and when they end up where they end up, you realize it's not something you should be challenging. Again, it was horrific and tragic what had happened at that rave. And all the questions behind how it was allowed to happen so close to an enemy, right next door to hundreds of thousands that resent you and want to kill you, and there's a threat there, and you still go on and do it in a delusional manner. And it's an idolatrous celebration under
you
a
wonder
statue.
how long it's been advertised for. These festivals need a lot of planning, and maybe they were going to do it.
So the time for everything fell into place.
Probably.
So in my estimation, as far as my faith goes, It's God's time. God coordinates all this. It's not man. And coincidences and questions and being mocking this stuff and saying that you're just a mumbo jumbo believer in superstition. But when things fall into place so perfectly, it's you can only submit to the belief that it's the hand of God, and it really is. Okay, and then you don't have all the answers to these questions. You could only guess, and you can only try to, according to your faith, realize what happened and what resulted in what happened. It's like, honestly, but when the Jews are celebrating their holy book and their history and their primary edict, which you like to really obsess over, which is to oppose idolatry, to reject idolatry, and to not celebrate it. But on that day, when you celebrate these laws and these edicts and the book and the tradition and everything that's been passed down, and then you have a group of peacenik, hippy-dippy, progressives, all of a sudden on drugs and screwing each other's brains out, dancing to techno music under an idol, a Buddha, and you ask, well, what, is God going to do something, especially now?
3,000 were executed for worshipping the golden calf.
Yeah, well, it's like, and then they get slaughtered and raped and mutilated, and their bodies get broken into pieces, and it's a horror, and it's an absolute freak show horror, and it's unimaginable. But then you see, when I saw that German Israeli girl dancing, and all of a sudden on the left side appears a Buddha, this big fucking Buddha statue. I said, what the fuck? What the fuck are they doing? And it's like, then it's like, not that I was legitimizing or justifying or saying, I submit to God's judgment, and however horrific and horrible it is, I'm not going to blame them. They're stupid. But I can understand that in these critical times, we're upon the end, and we're upon final total judgment, and the redemption and the revelation. God has no time to play around anymore. He's not playing around with anyone. And guess what? All of those people that committed this, they're all going to die. There's no forgiving what they did, and there's no excusing what they did. Even though it was God's judgment, and he used them as his instrument, it doesn't mean that they should be excused for it or thanked for it. They'll also be judged for what they did. They'll also face judgment. They'll be dead. We'll hunt them down, and we'll slaughter them mercilessly in revenge. And this is also God's will. So there you go.
Well, I can't watch it because I'm in the UK, apparently.
What, the gruesomeness?
Apparently, you're talking about, the dancing in front of the Buddha statue.
Oh, yeah, the footage is all over the place.
Oh,
And
okay.
our rabbis here also were giving interviews and saying, if that statue hasn't been destroyed yet, go there and destroy it immediately. Don't let that thing continue dwelling there in that place where all those people were slaughtered. Destroy that statue, even if it's just some sort of decoration or whatever. It was like just asking for trouble. And these people, these young idiot, hippy dippy, woke, progressive types. Even the two brothers that organized the thing. At least one of them was not drugged out of his mind and actually wrestled with one of the terrorists and grabbed his assault rifle from him and shot a few of these Hamasniks before he bought it. But at least he had the instinct to fight back, and he fought back, and he took a few of them with him. But they organized this thing, and it's on one of the holiest days, when the Jews are celebrating the Bible and the commandments and the edicts, and the primary one is that you shall have no other God before me, and you shall not worship a graven image. And they're trespassing on the first commandment, and then It's like, that's why I'm saying God is at the point where there's no, time has run out. He doesn't have patience for anyone anymore. He's not. This is where it's push comes to shove, and God is gonna make himself known, and this is very dramatic, very scary, and very challenging. And it can make people, it can really unsettle people, and you see all this violence, and it's not what we're used to. It's very personal. It's in our faces now, and so be it. You have to gird yourself for this stuff, and if it's years worth of talking and analyzing and preparing, and having psychological sort of like a buffer, psychological preparation, it's still difficult. You see those images, and these are people, average everyday people that you interact with every day. And I've had people at work that had people die there, and they were blown up. And he went to one of the friends at work actually went to the funeral, where his body of his friend, his buddy, was not found. They only found parts of him, and his girlfriend also. They were both blown up by an RPG. So these things did happen. And so it becomes personal, and you can't separate your personal emotions from the rational sort of analysis of it all, or you kind of take a step back and try to be not, I wouldn't say indifferent, but what's the word I'm looking for? Impartial. You can't.
Yes.
At this point, you can't be impartial. You could try to be impartial over there in Europe or in America, because it didn't happen to you, and it wasn't. It's like the same as telling people after a major calamity to sort of see things rationally and be impartial. It's like it's an insult to tell them to do that in the heat of their agony, in the heights of their despair and agony and pain. You can't tell them. Well, yeah, this kind of tone. Well, I can understand. Well, this happened, and I understand, and but maybe you're being manipulated. Obviously, we can accept. A lot of people can accept this, but it still doesn't take away the pain and the agony and the will and desire to want to get vengeance and justice, and to have this burden removed off of our backs, our shoulders. We want our sovereignty, and we don't want Christians and Muslims meddling in our religion, meddling in our country, and meddling in our future. And so we do believe in our end times beliefs, where we will be a nation unto ourselves in our land, dwelling safely in our land, without having any Jews outside of this land. This is the final conclusion of the time of wonderment, or the time when the human race has the ability to question whether there is a God or not. So at the culmination of this time period of history, which is now end times, the end of man's ability to kind of wrestle with whether there is or isn't a God, or wrestle with all these ideas of theirs. We're coming to sort of the totality, the conclusion. And Mr. Doooovid, that likes to call himself a Jew, will do everything to wrestle against God's will and what God is putting the world through, and kiss ass, and try to suck up and play politics and play the game, the blame game, and cover his ass and behave like a capo. Maybe I can buy myself some more time in America. But I honestly don't want this kind of. This is not a Jew. This kind, Bernie Sanders and Norman Finkelstein and Doooovid and all the other the Hollywood Jew bastards, the Jew bags. I don't want them. They could stay there, and they could live out their lives there for as long as they want. And good luck to you. We don't want you here. I mean, the Jews that are sitting on the fence will be brought here, because it will be God's will. The Jews that call themselves Jews but have betrayed what's happening now, and not accepting the fact that these are prophecies that are manifesting in real time. but they're still fighting it. They're rejecting it. They're making excuses, and they're trying to argue, and they're trying to play the game of lambasting the Zionists, lambasting the Jews, lambasting Israel in order to win over the Gentiles, in order to still live there with the Gentiles. Fuck you, go live. You're fine. We understand. We don't want to have anything to do with you. If only you could really change your name to some Goyish name and not be Jewish at all. Just go fuck yourselves and be atheists, and go get plastic surgery and try to erase every feature that's Semitic about you. Go grow a foreskin and leave us the fuck alone. Don't be Jewish. We don't want you.
Mm-hmm.
That's if that's what really gnaws at them and eats away at them. You don't want to live up to what's really happening now, and accept it and properly interpret it. Just do everything in your power to not even look like a Jew, be a Jew. Do the tattoos on your face, do the fucking piercings, do whatever. But sadly, your Jew nose is always in your Jew appearances. It's difficult to erase. You need to get like major surgery. And now that's why they want to turn themselves into women, and they want to turn themselves into men. They're fucked in the head. They're warped. They're bizarre. They're lost. This is what America did to them. This is what Europe did to them. The same thing happened also prior to the World War. The Jews became very deviant and depraved. They were pushing for transsexual operations. They were the first ones pushing for it. Transgenderism and all this sickness. They lost themselves over there. And they dragged all the rest of the Jews that were not that lost and not that fallen into the pit of hell with them. And so now the Jews are at the point where their backs are truly against the wall, and everything's closing in on them now. And this is what my rabbi was warning of, and this is what I was repeating, all these warnings. And there's no going back. This is the hour, what is it, the time of decision. This is the power hour, you want to call it. This is the time when actually things happen. It's not just we're talk. It's actually happening. And so, as much as we want to, resolve it via discussion, via debate, and talk is cheap now. It's like it's not going to work. The warnings were provided, and now the judgment has fallen. And now it's like you make your peace with everything that you were told would happen and that is happening. You can either reject it like Doooovid and continue playing his game. He's talking to neo-Nazis. He's talking to Islamic radicals, or whoever. He's talking to woke transgender types, in order to try to preserve whatever stability he feels he has in the diaspora. And a lot of them also want to assume that they made the right decision in staying there because Israel's doomed. And we're all going to die here. We're going to get overrun. And we're going to get the same treatment that the fucking monsters, butchers gave the residents of the South a week ago. We're all going to be, that's what they're thinking. And they have no faith. And they're lost. And they're godless. And they lie to themselves, including the religious ones there. And they're about to get a really horrendous wake-up call because this ends up really badly for them. Millionaires will be paupers overnight, and a lot of Jews will just have to pick up and leave, and they'll have no other choice. But the ones that are diehards, that can pretend to be Goyim, Gentiles, good luck to you. Get your tattoos ready. Get your tattoo artists ready to tattoo your entire fucking Jew face and maybe pierce your ears and pierce your nose and pierce your eyebrows and pierce your tongue, pierce whatever, pierce your ass. Do whatever, get tattooed and pierce yourself to try to impersonate some freakish non-Jew. They'll still know that you're a fucking Jew. Your stupid fucking Jew face will give you away. And you won't be able to escape. Just take your chances. Take your chances. See what happens to you. God's will not be defeated. The majority of the Jews will be brought back to Israel with their tails between their legs. And again, if they don't like hearing this, I don't care if it's Doooovid, or some guy Reuben that lives over there in the Northwest. He also said, in a kind of mocking manner, when I wrote down that I feel safe, nothing happened to me, and I'm thankful that I was spared and everything. He says, well, for now, wait a while, as if he believes that we'll be overrun and we'll all be murdered, and we'll all be butchered. And that's what American Jews think. That's what Jews in Europe maybe think. It's going to happen to you. It's going to blow back on you now. Look at what's happening. Look at what's developing. This is God's will. This is the hand of God. If you can't accept that, I feel sorry for you. You don't see what's developing. You don't see that you're going to lose everything. Your fault. You'll be held responsible. We're upon it now. It won't take too much longer. God help you. God help all of us. But I know I'm in the right place as a Jew. You chose to be in the wrong place. Even if it means putting my life at risk. But I'm not stupid. You know who was spared from amongst those kibbutzim? The religious Jews that kept Shabbat and that held weapons at home. They weren't delusional. The terrorists couldn't get into their settlement, and whoever did got shot. At least they were clear-minded. They were sane. They weren't delusional. They weren't leftist, hippy-dippy dreamers and do-gooders that ended up getting raped and murdered and butchered. And that's also from God, a signal, a message. People should do a form of repentance. Stop believing in your bullshit. Think rationally, think logically. And I'm saying that as a believing Jew that sounds like he's illogical and irrational, but I'm very logical. I'm following what's written in the book and I'm following a person that has the ability and power to guide me properly as to what's about to happen, the proper a sort of approach or the proper behavior to mitigate getting harmed, being harmed. So yeah, this is the time, and a lot of the Jews in Israel, especially, are being challenged now to repent and stop thinking that you're in control and you're in charge. Really, it's the same applies to the Gentiles and the Jews over there overseas. Really, if you want to be a faithful Muslim without being a fanatic, that's one thing even Jews admire in the Muslims, and even some Christians admire this in the Muslims. It's like it's really about God is in control. God is greater. All right. That we have no problem with that belief. It's actually something we believe in as well. We just don't speak it as often as the Muslims. They like to say it a lot because it's their war cry, and it's they use it for everything, even in their butchery and sickness and their madness and their rape fests and everything. Allahu Akbar. That's kind of sick, which is really kind of like a perversion of that saying. But it's in its truest form and its purest form. Jewish believers don't have a problem with that. It really is. We believe in the same thing. God is the one really in control. God is really the one pulling the strings. God is really the one engineering it all. And we submit to that. And Jews that are not repenting and are not, that are still arrogant and they're still proud, are being broken. Their pride is being broken, and their arrogance is being broken. Their ability to influence and control things with money or with charisma or with whatever entertainment, that all that is being broken, and it's meant to be that way in order for them to finally say, there's a saying in Hebrew, it's not about me, it's not about kochi ve'otzem yadi, it's not about my will, my strength, and my power. It's about God, and it's really submission. Submit to the fact that you are not in control. It's only an illusion. And who has the hardest time with this? It's the Satanists. It's the ruling cabal. Those are the real sick puppies. Those are the real power-mad lunatics that God is fighting now, that God is against, that God is about to destroy in a very dramatic way right now. So if anybody has any faith, they should be humble and not and especially at this time, we're defending ourselves. There is no bloodlust here. We know that God is the one, and if we're faithful believers and we're submitting to our beliefs, that we will be protected, and we will, get justice, and vengeance will be granted to us by the hand of God. So again, those that have it in for us, I have no concern. I know their time is up, and at this point, I'll defend myself if people come at me to kill me or my family. I'll pick up a weapon. I'll gun them down first, or if it's a tank or artillery or a plane, whatever, to all our soldiers defending us and protecting us, kill all the enemies that you can that are coming at us. But at the end of the day, I know that God is going to get involved, and he's already intervening, and this is the process. So I'm not worried about those that are willing to butcher us, murder us, rape us in the territories or in Gaza or wherever, or surrounding countries. Their time is up. I'm in full anticipation mode because the signs are overwhelming at this point. It's here. And if you were smart, all the Jews listening to this overseas, you would also be here. And it goes against the logic of what's happening. But, it's about faith, and you should be here and not there. You're in more danger there. I don't know if this Doooovid guy said he's in more danger, like what Vincent said, he's in more danger in Detroit. Well, so what's the story with this guy?
Because he wants to live. He did study in Israel. I think he went to rabbinical college when he was in Israel.
Yeah, but he's very torn. Like a lot of these Jews living abroad are very torn. They're torn, and they don't realize that what's keeping them there is about to be taken from them. If they're torn between living here and having some sort of financial security over there in Europe or in America, they're really stupid. I mean, they're really lost, and they're delusional. And this includes a lot of religious, ultra-Orthodox and Orthodox types that just have become accustomed to living there. You can see that God is tearing you away from that place, and he's going to tear you away from that place violently and painfully, and you will have nothing to live for over there. And it's within sight. And there's millions of them, and you're stupid. You're stupid. You're not committing to your faith. And you want to be so righteous and observant and follow everything to the letter of the law, but you're committing the worst affront, and you're going against God's will. You're betraying God because he wants you here, and you know that he wants you here, and you don't, and you refuse to come. You make 1,000,001 excuses. Then you suck dick. You suck the Nazis' dick. You suck the Islamists' dick. You suck the terrorist dick, and you make all sorts of arguments against Israel in order to protect yourselves and your existence over there. You're fucking pathetic scumbags. You're miserable, pathetic pieces of shit. And it's all in God's hands. Claire, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's all in God's hands, so I'll end it with a word of hope and positivity. I won't say it in the Arabic, but I'll say God is greater, God is in control, and if you have not submitted, and if you have not listened to his will and prodding and telling you clearly you shouldn't be amongst the Gentiles in Gentile lands anymore, then I feel sorry for you. But that's what God wants of you. And if you end up paying through the nose, blame yourselves and don't blame anybody else, because it's upon you now. It's really upon you, Anyway, have a good night, Claire. I think I transmitted the message well enough. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
You too. Good night. Bye.